Hi guys, my name is John Cabot. I'm the Director of Special Needs for the Mandel JCC of the Palm Beaches. This is our first virtual training during these challenging times, and the topic today is understanding behavior. So we're going to look at why behavior occurs and then what we can do to make those maladaptive behaviors go away. So there's a lot of misconceptions on why negative behaviors occur. I hear a lot from teachers and sometimes from parents that he's just a bad kid or the parents aren't disciplining appropriately. I'm starting to hear a lot of the child was just born with these behaviors. All of these statements are incorrect, and we're going to go into why they happen next. So kids learn maladaptive behaviors like they learn anything else. They learn behaviors the same way they learn how to clap their hands, the same way they learn how to stomp their feet, the same way they learn how to match their colors, learn the alphabet. They're not taught on purpose. I've never spoken to a parent or a teacher who says, I can't wait to wake up tomorrow and teach the child how to hit or bite or scratch. Maladaptive behavior is reinforced, and this makes the behavior happen more often in the future. We don't know that we're teaching these behaviors. So how it happens is the child displays a behavior, a person or the environment responds to the behavior, that response is reinforcing, and therefore the behavior happens again in the future. So for a child who bangs his or her head, the child might bang their head and mom or dad come running across the house and pick them up, and getting picked up and hugged is reinforcing, and now the child has learned that banging their head is actually a cool way to grab attention from families. Or a child is told to match their letters in school and he or she bites and the teacher backs off and doesn't make them match their letters, and now the child's learned that biting is a pretty great way to escape a demand. There's something in our behavior contingencies that's really important to understand. They're called send events. These aren't the antecedent, they don't cause a behavior to happen, but they make a behavior more likely to happen. So for example, every time I go to Publix, someone takes something that I was about to put in my cart or they cut me off going down an aisle, and I'm fine with it. I say, thank you for stealing the Oreos I really wanted. Have a great day. But with the shortage of food and toilet paper right now, if I was at Publix and someone took the last roll of toilet paper, I might scream, I might hit, I might kick, I might bite. Someone else taking the last roll of toilet paper is the antecedent. That caused my tantrum. But the pandemic going on right now is the reason why I'm more likely to tantrum when something that happens every day in my life doesn't cause me to tantrum any other time. Some of these sudden events might be hunger, thirst, illness, medication, noise, boredom, sleep deprivation. For adults, a fight with your spouse. If you have a fight with your husband or wife tonight and tomorrow you're driving to work and you get cut off on I-95, I bet you're going to be screaming at that driver, maybe putting a finger up that you shouldn't put up. And that's really the antecedent is being cut off on 95, but getting in a fight with your spouse the night before makes you more likely to have that explosive response when every other day you're okay being cut off on 95. All behaviors happen for one of four reasons. This is true for kids, this is true for adults. The first is attention. I want you to respond to me. The second is escape. I don't want to do what you're telling me to do right now. The third is tangible. I want that toy, I want that cookie, I want that puzzle, I want that game, that activity. And then there's sensory. I just like the way this feels. Kind of like scratching a bug bite, chewing your fingernails. Those tend to be sensory seeking behaviors. And again, everything that we do, everything our children do, ties into one of these four functions. So for attention, it's to gain access to that person, and the inappropriate behavior ends when the parent comes near. There is also the social access to tangible component. So when we're looking at access to tangibles, the child falls to the floor. When the teacher's finished reading, the teacher gives the child the book, they stop. Or the child cries, gets some chips, the crying stops. What do we want to do for attention-seeking behaviors? We want to reinforce the appropriate method for requesting attention, and then only reinforce that. And then we don't want to give attention to those negative behaviors. So when a child says, come play with me, we are going to reinforce them like crazy. But when they cry, hit, scream for your attention, we're not going to give them that attention for those negative behaviors. So for those of you that don't know, I have a 40-year-old brother with autism, and I have a mother who is one of the experts in the field of autism. And a lot of times the phone would ring, my mom would walk out of the bedroom, my brother would start crying, she would hang up the phone and immediately run back to him, and she could never figure out why he was crying. Well, it was pretty obvious in that case it was some attention-seeking behavior. Escape. During bathroom, routine, the parent says it's time to take a bath and the child runs from the bathroom. Or during dinner time, you say, first eat your broccoli, then you can have ice cream, and the child throws his broccoli. What we want to do is reinforce and teach the appropriate way to ask for a break or I need help. We want to use lots of reinforcement during non-preferred activities. So if you know bath time is non-preferred for your child, that's when you break out the iPad, the edible reinforcers, the big time preferred toys to make bath time successful. And then we're going to prompt our child to complete the activity, and we're never going to let the inappropriate behavior get them out of the activity. So in schools, especially in elementary gen ed, for example, every time the teacher says it's time to do your spelling test, if the child starts tantruming and you say, time to go to the principal's office, that child was reinforced because they got out of taking that test. And then automatic reinforcement. The behavior occurs in the absence of people or items. It might be that rocking behavior, that arm flapping, scratching a bug bite. And what we want to do is provide opportunities to engage in socially appropriate activities. We want to limit downtime. The more downtime we have, the more of those sensory seeking behaviors we're going to see from our kids. So I'm sure a lot of you have either seen at your child's IEP meetings or you've partaken in ABC data. In ABC data, the A stands for antecedent. That's what happens right before the behavior occurs. It could be a demand from you or a teacher. It could be an adult walking away. The B is the behavior. Could be hitting, throwing, headbanging, dropping to the floor. And the C is the consequence. It's what happens right after the behavior. It could involve removing a demand, giving the child attention, or giving the child a toy. And there's two types of consequences. There's reinforcement and there's punishment. Reinforcement is anything that happens after a behavior that makes the behavior more likely to happen again in the future. Punishment is anything after a behavior that decreases the probability of the behavior happening again. And what's reinforcing for me might not be reinforcing for you guys. So unfortunately for me, one of my biggest reinforcers is watching the Dolphins play. I love watching them play, even though they're awful. This might be our year. For other people, watching the Dolphins play might be a punisher. So what we use for one child as a reinforcer doesn't mean it's reinforcing for the next child. Chocolate is a phenomenal reinforcer for some people. If you're lactose intolerant, it might be a punisher. So when using reinforcement, first make sure your reinforcers are actually reinforcing. It's not just something the child likes, it's something they love. Remember that reinforcers might work for one behavior and not another. Keep an open mind. Some of our guys have interesting reinforcers. I had a child once who one of the teachers in the room said, John, this child doesn't have a reinforcer. And I said, remember, every child has a reinforcer. She said, really? Come to my room and find his reinforcer. For 3 days, I sat in this teacher's room. On the third day, I'm like, man, she might be right. This child might not have a reinforcer. She was running something called discrete trials. She was working on clapping hands. She would say, clap hands. The child clapped his hands. She went to mark a plus on her data sheet. She dropped her pen. She bent over. When she bent over and her hair flipped over her head, the child started cracking up. So I said, do it again. She did it again. Same thing. This child's hair reinforcer was watching hair blow in the wind. So I tested it out, clap your hands, the child clapped his hands. I did this, nothing. Teacher did it again, started cracking up. We bought a wig. There's some very embarrassing video somewhere of me teaching in a wig. It was destroyed, hopefully. That was the child's reinforcer. We need to individualize the reinforcers and make them super fun for our kids. And remember, what you're using as a reinforcer, you need to limit access to other times of the day. So if you're using chips as a reinforcer, the child can't have 2 bags of chips for snack because they're not going to work for them. We want to make the reinforcer only contingent upon doing what you're trying to teach them. How do we prevent attention-seeking behaviors? Give plenty of free attention. When the behavior occurs, ignore if possible. If it's self-injurious behavior, we can't ignore it. If the child's banging their head on the floor, please don't just let them bang their head on the floor. If they're running out of the house for attention, please don't ignore them as they run out of the house. But we give them minimal attention. We block the behavior, but we're not talking to them. We're not, oh my God, we don't do that. We're blocking, we're looking away. Hey, honey, can you keep working on the spaghetti, whatever it is, but we're not giving them that attention. When they stop engaging in the negative behavior, that's when we shower them with praise. For tangible seeking behaviors, ensure their needs are met, provide access to preferred items, and then do a little reinforcer assessment. See what your kid really likes. We're going to teach them different ways of requesting an item or activity, and then we're going to teach them to wait for that item. For some of your kids, you might be in that situation where when they want that cookie, they want it right now. And we're going to have to teach them, we give it to them right now when they ask for it, and then tomorrow they have to wait 3 seconds, and then 5 seconds, and then 10 seconds, but we have to teach that wait time. When our children have those negative behaviors for access to items, the most important thing is make sure they don't get the item. When the behavior stops, prompt them to request the item, and then we can deliver the item. For escape behaviors, intersperse easy and challenging demands. Kids don't want to do hard things all day. Give them choices. Do you want to do the cars and trucks puzzle or the fruits and vegetables puzzle? I don't care because you're going to do a puzzle right now, but if doing the cars puzzle is more reinforcing for you, you're more likely to do it. Give kids those choices. It's not, do you want to do a puzzle or go play in the front yard? It's 2 appropriate choices at that time. And then we're going to teach our kids to request a break or teach help. If we see those negative behaviors to escape, the most important thing is make sure they comply. Prompt them, represent the demand, and when they stop with the negative behavior, then we can prompt them to request a break. For those sensory seeking behaviors, again, reduce downtime. Find a thing that gives them that same sensory stimulation. If they are biting because they like the way it feels on their teeth, Chewery might be a great thing. If they are spitting because they like to play with the spit on the table after, clear gelatin might be a great way to give them that same input. And then we're going to teach our kids those leisure skills. So pick your battles. As parents, it's really important. You can't fight every fight. Is it compromising their health and safety? If not, it might not be a priority. Does it interfere with their camp, school, home experience? If not, not a priority. Most importantly, make sure our kids' needs are met. Make sure your kids are comfortable. Make sure, especially right now, that they're healthy. And then most importantly, be patient, stay calm, and stay positive. If you feel yourself starting to escalate, you're getting frustrated, remove yourself from the situation. If you escalate, your kids are going to escalate. I can remember a time when my dad was trying to get my brother to take his pill. My brother spitted in my dad's face, so my dad went here. My brother jumped on him, so my dad went here. My brother yelled at him, so my dad went here. I had to peel them both off the ceiling. If you have to, again, remove yourself from the situation, but our kids' behavior is never going to change if our behavior doesn't change. This was our quick introduction to behavior. We're going to have a training posted every day to our Facebook, YouTube pages. If you have any questions, feel free to email me, jonathank@jcconline.com, and I'll answer the questions as best I can. Tomorrow is going to be a training on social skills. I'm looking forward to it. Have a great one and stay safe, guys.